really well. And they wanted to come up with something that was maybe a little bit more casual. So the Polynesian trend was sweeping the country. Any of you guys made it to Dawn of Tiki, the Dawn the Beachcomber documentary that was just screened? Yeah, so if you were there for Dawn the Beachcomber and Dawn of Tiki, you know kind of what's going on. You know the history of Dawn, you know a little bit of the history of Trader Vic's. You might know a little bit about the Moai, which is another Polynesian palace. It's probably the only big-scale Polynesian palace still left in the United States today in Fort Lauderdale. Anyone here made it to the trek to the Moai in Fort Lauderdale? Wednesday. Yeah, the Moai is pretty remarkable. The first time I went to the Moai, yeah, thanks for it. The first time I went to the Moai was like being back home at the Kahiki. There's nothing quite like it. Bill and Lee visited the Moai and said, this is it. This is the greatest thing going. We're going to steal everything lock, stock, and barrel, including the Mystery Girl, the Mystery Bull, the Gong. Even for a time there was the Kahiki Gardens that was a riff off of the Moai Gardens. So they opened that up in a little place that they had bought called the Grass Shack. Now, interestingly enough, during Bill's birthday party, they had a big birthday party for him. And the main bartender, there was a guy named Sandro Conti, and the things are kind of done for the night. And Sandro gives Bill a call and says, hey boss, the place is on fire. I don't think I'm going to make it to work tomorrow. So the Grass Shack burns down, right? And interestingly enough, groundbreaking for what was to be the Polynesian Palace was to open the next day. Coincidence? Good luck? Bad luck? You call it what you will.
It didn't fall on a state rep's car or anything.
No, it didn't fall on anybody. No, who knows what was going on? But those of you who saw Dawn the Beachcomber and knew about some of the other things that were going on, I suspect there might have been some underworld involvement, but who knows? But anyway, 1961, the marvelous Kahiki opens up. Bill and Lee had seen a great Polynesian billboard on a trip through Kentucky, and it happened to be by a guy by the name of Coburn Morgan. Anyone know that name? Anyone know the name of Coburn Morgan? Anybody ever been to the wine cellar when it was going on in Columbus? Or how about Tangier's restaurant in Akron, Ohio? Well, Coburn Morgan was doing some work for Nationwide Insurance on a Polynesian theme. They saw it. He got hired in to do all of the Polynesian work for the Kahiki, and it was Coburn Morgan and Phil Keats who kind of imagined the Moai. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the Moai, and you've heard me plenty talking, so I'm going to turn it over to Elise for a moment.
Oh, okay. I prepared nothing. I'm going to talk about the Moai, Doug.
So I'll help you with it. So the Moai was Coburn Morgan's idea, Phil Keats, and the whole idea of the Moai. Any of you guys ever seen the Easter Island heads? Yes. So the Moai people, they're sacred. And so the idea was to be when you went into this giant Polynesian palace that stood about 5 stories tall at the beginning, you would actually walk through these. And he wanted to have the elements of earth, air, fire, and water. So as you walked across the water, right, to get into the restaurant, you would have the elements of the earth, of the Moai, flanking you on either side, and then the top knot will be done here in a little bit, actually had a flame come out. So immediately, you've got 3 of the elements of earth, air, fire, and water as you enter into the Kahiki. And probably there was a lot of air going on blowing everything around. But it was Phil Keats. Any of you from Columbus ever been to see the talking tree at Lazarus department store? Another amazing book written by Elise and her folks, Look to Lazarus. Phil Keats is responsible for constructing the talking tree at Lazarus, and he was responsible for constructing the Moai as well. So this is only one of 2 Moai that would have flanked the Kahiki. We'll talk about that. So the Kahiki goes from 1961 until 2000. Remarkable Polynesian restaurant. And in 2000, of course, it closes down with the idea that it had changed hands, and the Chow family, who owned it at that point, wanted to rebuild the Kahiki across from Veterans Memorial. And they were going to build it on the riverfront, and you could have swam up to it or boated up to it or something. But shortly after that, because they put everything into storage. In fact, Elise and I went to the Kahiki Frozen Foods and saw a lot of the pieces that were the material from inside the Kahiki, but they were going to use to redecorate the new Kahiki as it was going to be built on the Scioto River. But shortly after that, Mr. Chow had passed away, and so that never happened. About 6 years past that, they did a big auction of a lot of the materials. The Fraternal Order of the Moai, which has been here, I know Trader Nick is here for the Moai, I know Don Holiday has been here, so has Holly been here as well. They actually purchased George the Monkey at the auction. He's under restoration right now. But the idea was going to be that they were going to build all of this back up again, right? And at the auction, another member of the Fraternal Order of the Moai, Tiki Skip, who has been here, I don't know if he's here yet or not, but he rescued the Moai and thought he would be able to do something with it. There was a series of great fortune. The Huli Huli Restaurant acquired the Moai from Tiki Skip, and we were here last year for the big fundraiser that we were doing. They ended up raising about $13,000 or $14,000 for the restoration of this guy. So let's, again, a big round of applause to Huli Huli for doing that. And then a year later, after they were able to get it done, we are now in the presence of, Jeff and I were kind of crying a little bit earlier when we got here. It's pretty remarkable. If any of you had been to the Kahiki, does this not look exactly like the Moai that you would have walked through? Am I right? Yes? I see a couple of thumbs up. Let's give a round of applause if it looks the way that you thought that it might. So a lot of these stories and a lot of other stories that we would talk about are in the book, The Kahiki Supper Club of Polynesian Palace in Columbus, Ohio. Elise, Jeff, and I will be available. I tried to pass it off a couple of times. I'll let Elise chat for a second.
Yeah. Big thanks to Doug for giving you all that history. He has been out here selling all day while I have been sitting at the bar all day. So thank you for remembering dates and names for me today. Again, I don't think he's here anymore like you said, but this Moai was saved because it was in somebody's backyard all this time, and that's Tiki Skip. And it was several winters ago when I got to go see it in his backyard, and I didn't think we'd be here today. If you saw what we saw, it was a shell. From one side, it kind of looked okay. Yeah, my son's thumbs down, he was there too. We kind of all looked at it and went, okay, well that's the end of an era, because there's no way that's coming back. So the work that has been done here today is phenomenal. The substructure is still all there. It's kind of a ship of Theseus situation where it's still the Moai because the guts are still there, even if the outer shell is new and nice and awesome for us today. So again, we can't say enough good things about Tiki Skip for being the protector of it for all this time, because his buddy and the big fireplace are somewhere in New England. And some unclear thoughts on that. The trail ran cold a couple years ago, so again, just can't reiterate enough how awesome it is to have you here today. As Doug said, 3 of the co-authors of 2 books on the Kahiki. Our first one, Kahiki Supper Club, is really the history of the Kahiki from the beginning, from the owner's perspective, sort of top down. Here's what Lee and Bill were thinking, here's how they progressed, here's their history in restaurants. It is full of recipes, both drink and food, so check that one out. And then our second book, the Kahiki Scrapbook, which is a more recent one, is more of a top-up situation. We really wanted to interview the people who worked there and the patrons who went there and the artists who were inspired by the work there. Also, lots of good recipes and food in that book. So I think we only have copies of the first one right now.
Sold out of the scrapbook already.
We're sold out. Oh, no, Jeff's got copies. So we have copies of both today, but the 3 of us are here to sign for you. And just again, thank you all for coming out for such a cool reason. And as a Columbus born and raised girl, I could not be more happy today to see that Moai standing there.
All right, thanks a lot. What are we going to be doing from here? Are we just going to be signing books? We're going to be right over, hopefully in the shade, because I'm burning up over here. And so, yeah, all 3 of us will be over there signing books, answering questions, and anything that's Kahiki related, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. So, we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I even need to use this mic here? Yes, for the people inside. was an event that was, let's say, 25 years in the making. Oh my God, I have thought about this day for a while now and what I was going to say. First of all, I want to thank all our vendors, all our donators, everyone that made this possible. When I first got a line on this, and Dustin and I were talking about it, and I started hearing stories about everyone's experience at the Kahiki. Whether it was with a birthday or a sorority or a wedding, whatever it was about building stories and a community getting together. And that is why I got into this business 30 plus years ago, because of the stories that people share around the table. And, oh, sorry, I'm without you guys donating, without you being a part of this, this would not held as much meaning to me as it does right now. Because truly, this representation of the Kahiki is now part of all of Ohio. It's a part of each and every one of you. It is a story that you can carry on with you. It is a place that you can bring your family, continue those stories, continue that legacy. So honestly, Dustin, myself, the entire staff at Huli Huli, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for everything that you've done to make this a reality. And I think what I want to do next is I want to introduce the man responsible for taking this from just rebar to what you see before you. Rick Huffman.
I really appreciate this, everyone. My voice isn't very like his does. As he said, the stories that I've heard just while working with this. Actually, back up, I didn't know what I was thinking when I started this. I just thought there was a statue in the back of that restaurant. It needed some work done. That was it. I knew Tiki was a big deal. I unfortunately had never been there to really put that big deal into perspective. But as I got more and more people that would stop and talk to me and tell me their stories, whether or not they went to prom or just had dinner there when they were younger, the things that they remember, it started to really click of how important this was to everyone. And that really pushed me not only to, I don't want to say do a better job, because I would have done that anyway, but it really pushed me to dig into the history of Tiki and I wanted to be as accurate as I possibly could get. So that really pushed me to find articles, pictures, YouTube videos. And unfortunately, there's not instruction manual on how to restore an old Moai head. So, but fortunately, we live in a world where you can actually Google how to create a Moai, and you will find information. There actually is stuff out there. So, a lot of reading, a lot of history. So to be a part of this, something that was so personal to me creating this is amazing to see how personal it is to everyone else. And to connect those two together has really been amazing. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. So I'm glad to be a part. So I appreciate everyone's support. Thank you. Thank you.
Using it. Okay, so before the officials, I've invited Ricky Santer to come up and read one of her poems from her book, Kahiki Region.
I'm not from Columbus. I moved up. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Listen, commercial. I'm not from Columbus. I moved here from Baltimore, Maryland. We eventually moved into a home where the owner was really good buddies with Golden Morgan. And in fact, we have a mural by him in our house, in the office, for the owner. So I'm a former journalist as well as a poet, and I was really curious. People kept saying the Kahiki, and it was raised by the time I got here. So I went down to the Ohio History Connection, and what did I find? I wanted to research it. I found a matchbook and a menu. And that was all at that time. Thank goodness we have all these great books that have captured the history of that great restaurant. So I started asking people about stories, and what you guys have just shared, everybody has a story about this restaurant. So this poetry collection emerged, and copies of, excuse the shameless promotion, copies available in the corner there. But I have poems here about Sam the Macaw, remember him? Arthur Godfrey, Jacques Gabor, Andy Warhol was at the Kahiki. Poems about the great drinks that were there. I asked Rick, which poem would you like me to read? So I want to read that poem that he has selected. And it's the last poem in the collection, because I was trying to think, well, how do you preserve the memory of a place that was so beloved by Columbus, and the largest Polynesian restaurant in the United States of America for 40 years. So this poem, and I hope you recognize yourself in it, it's called Kahiki in the Museum. At the turn of a dark labyrinth hall, an amber glow lures you to the threshold of diorama. Inside, against a midnight wall, sparkling strands of teardrop beads serve as a placeholder for a liminal landscape extinct. Artifacts under spotlights, bathroom clamshell sinks, lipstick-stained napkins and bite-marked straws. From virgin lips, a pyramid of etched glassware, plastic volcano erupting in gleeful strings of snapshots that incriminate with outdated fashion. A baby tooth passing in the manger of a matchbook, bread baskets and rolled hand towels hiding engagement rings from modest to brazen, a cotillion of peacock chairs where brides-to-be reign like princesses, heaping bowls of built-to fortune cookie messages freed from their former lives in jewelry cases and wallets, and a corner booth strewn with confettis of tiny umbrellas, altar where widows and widowers return alow to rekindle the morning that was flanked by two grand Moai, flaming with the promise of wonder. Rick, cue the flame.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Coburn Morgan in honor of. Now, you all know me, I'm short on words, so everyone to the Kahiki. All right, there's a party to be had. Let's go, guys.